to get rolling. Folks, this is Book Talk with Corbin. I am your host. We brought back a blessing, a privilege to bring this brother back a second time, Dexter. Um, I just told Dexter before we officially started recording this interview. He was my highest viewed interview, and then some guy comes along and blows him out the water. So let's hope now that Dex has got that Muhammad Ali attitude. Like, oh no, I'm getting my crown back. Yeah, I'm getting my belt back. Brother, it's good. I'm glad you made time. You're a family man. You're a police officer. I know you're always busy, and you are still working on your book. Give us a progress report on your book.
So actually, I'm working on the last chapter, and I just actually finished up the introduction for the book. And so I'm still just trying to put stuff into place to just kind of pull it all together. And, it's putting the end of the last chapter is like where everything comes together, all the life lessons learned, and just trying to put that in there to where everybody can get something out of it, and just trying to pull it. It's harder than it. Like, people don't realize it is hard to write a book. Like,
yes,
even if you lived it, it's still hard to just put all those thoughts on paper and trying to make sure that, your thoughts are coming across, clear. So I'm almost there. I've had some people that I know that I served with, officers on the department that have, they've read through and they're like, man, this is phenomenal. So I'm feeling encouraged about it. Like I say, it's just been real hard been working a lot of overtime. So when I'm not working overtime, my son just started playing basketball and then trying to make time for family and just trying to squeeze in what little time I can.
Right.
This thing also.
Right. But I'm glad you're sticking with it because, I know you don't put yourself on this so-called level, but I think one of the greatest things is like when someone like a Miles Davis sits down and says, okay, I work with Quincy Troop to do an autobiography. When someone like a Booker T. Washington sits down and says, okay, I'm going to put this book together, from slavery, it's very important. And so I'm so thankful that you're making this effort, you're making this sacrifice to give us this work. And it's going to.
And I'll say, for me, it's more so like I have a story, I have a voice, and I feel like a lot of young black men that are like me that are conservative don't necessarily have a voice. And as we've seen, those voices are now being shut down with big tech and all stuff going on, people being kicked off of Facebook and Twitter and social media. But, if I put my voice in a book, that's going to be there forever. And so one day I'm not going to be here.
Right.
And I want my kids to have something to know that, hey, this is my dad's life on these pages, and that's going to live on forever. The lessons I've learned, the things I've done, all that's going to live on forever, even long after I'm gone. And my kids can always have something to turn to when I'm not here, so they can be like, hey, Dad did this, I can do this,
There you go, brother. Amen. So, I'm gonna keep being that fly in your ear about the book. I ain't gonna stop till it's out.
I'm glad. I mean,
and once it's out, I'm definitely gonna be calling you all the time. Let's promote it again. It's very important work, brother. As you know, a lot of my listeners are from all around, but here in Louisville, we just got a new police chief, and so I just wanted you to share some of your feelings, your thoughts about the new police chief.
Well, for me, like I said, I haven't met her yet personally. So, she's done a press conference. She said some things during the press conference that I might not necessarily agree with. However, I know what it's like. I grew up in the military. And so I know what it's like to be the new person coming in town and not knowing anybody, and everybody wants to be accepted. But, at the same time, you got to kind of show yourself and show what you're about. And so I can't make a judgment on her, but I will say this. I'm going to give her a chance. I've heard from officers that have friends now in the Atlanta Police Department, and they said that she was beloved by officers on the Atlanta Police Department. So that gives me, good feeling going forward, And I heard some of the things she's saying, talking about trying to get us more money and raises and stuff. That's always good stuff, So
right.
We'll see. Like I say, man, we've already got a new policy that place that some officers aren't too keen about. And let me say, this is not the opinion of the LMPD. This is all my personal opinion. So the new policy is anytime we point our weapons at somebody, we have to call a sergeant and do an air form. So anytime we take our weapon out and point it, we got to call a sergeant. And a lot of guys don't like it. However, but the thing is, a lot of major police departments across the United States already have this policy in effect. And it was only a matter of time before it was coming here to rule. So I always knew it was coming. Honestly, I'm surprised we've done it this long without it. So, you know, like I said, what are we going to do? I was like, a lot of people don't like it, but I guess what, at the end of the day, if you want to work here, guess what you're going to do? You're going to sign off on the policy, acknowledge it. You're going to report to your ship. And if you get into an altercation and you pull your gun and point it at somebody, guess what you're going to do? You're going to call your sergeant. He's going to come. And he's going to do the paperwork. So that's all you can do. The only other option you have is you don't like it, quit.
Right. Wow. But that they don't think that potentially puts an officer in danger?
Yeah, it doesn't put an officer in danger. What it does is it kind of helps off accountability and keeps track of stats. That's what that does, you know. And people, the only thing I don't like is those stats can be used. It can be skewed against officers. So say I had a conversation with my buddy the other day, and I was like, hey, if you're an officer and you work in a predominantly Black community, and if that community has more crime, you're going to be pulling your weapon a lot more often. And if you pull your weapon and the person that you pointed at is a person of color, and that's predominantly in that neighborhood, it's going to look like, hey, officers are, you know, pulling their weapons more on people of color more often than, you know, white people or anybody else. But that's not the case. It's just that that's your environment you work in. That's where you're going to encounter more so often. But see, that's what that is. But people are not going to see that. People are not going to get the totality of the circumstances that led up to that incident for which the officer felt that they needed to pull their weapon and point it at somebody. Like, I've been doing this 10 years, man. I've worked in the West End for a long time. There have been times in shift where I've had my gun out of the holster numerous times, drawn down on people. Because, I mean, let's be honest. The West End has a lot of crime, unfortunately.
Oh, yes.
A lot of crime, you know, and I wish it didn't. But, you know, that's why I work there, because I want to try to help make a difference. And if we're going to do that, it's a dangerous job. So, like, the other thing is people feel like it might cost officers to hesitate because of the paperwork. And if any of my fellow officers are listening, you know, if you feel like you need to draw your weapon and do what you have to do. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be judged regardless, no matter what you do. So at the end of the day, you need to make sure you get home to your family.
Right. Amen to that.
Officer safety is paramount. That is the only thing. Don't let a piece of paper be the determining factor from you not going home alive or your partner getting hurt on your watch. That's not acceptable.
And you know, brother, you know, I oftentimes just get the impression that from certain circles that they're maybe able to paint the narrative that you police officers are just a bunch of devils. You're just out here beating people up and shooting people and stuff like that. And there's no, you know, the narrative is not, man, they're human beings just like me, just like you, the guy down the street. They got families, they got, you know, interests, they got hobbies.
Yeah. You know, it's weird, you know, it's like, just like a bunch of us get together when we're working, and we like, hey, man, where are we going for lunch? We walk into a place to go grab lunch. It's just like everything stops. What's going on? Why are you here? Like, lunch, man.
I'm looking for that Big Mac. Yeah. Shoot.
Too many Big Macs, brother. Too many Big Macs. But yeah, you know, people don't realize that we are humans, man. But a lot of people don't even realize, like, just with working the riots here the last year on the streets, and I had 321 hours overtime since I came back in June. And a lot of that time has been out on the streets dealing with protesters. And as a Black police officer, what a lot of people don't realize, man, some of the nastiest things I've had said to me in my life, and especially in my career, have come from people that look just like me. So, you know, people always try to say, just like with Biden and Austin now, they're talking about white terrorism, you know, terrorism and, you know, domestic terrorism, like evil white people. I'm just like, that stuff is real, but it's on the other end too. And I cannot tell you the number of times I've had my life threatened in the last 6 months because of the uniform I wear and because I'm Black but I do not subscribe to the same politics or the same view as somebody else.
Wow.
You know, and it's taxing. It's taxing. And I mean, all my life, I'm a dark-skinned person, and a lot of people don't like talking about it, but I mentioned it in my book where how growing up, I was ashamed to be dark-skinned, but it was not because of white people making fun of me for being black. It was always because of black people, my fellow people, getting on the bus in the 7th grade, terrorized me and tortured me, threatened to jump me and beat me up because I was so dark-skinned. I can still hear the names they called me, man.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, terrorized me for years. And then not on top of that, so I get made fun of for being dark-skinned. But then they go, why do you act so white? And you got to imagine, what does that do to somebody that's like, 12 years old, 7th grade, and thinking like, I'm getting made fun of for being dark-skinned, but I'm also, hey, you're acting white. Like, man, for so many years, I did not really have my own identity. And I like I say, I talk about this in my book where I was a chameleon. I would just try to blend into whatever background or whatever group of people I was in. I didn't have my own identity. My identity was given to me by everybody else I was around because I didn't have enough self-confidence in myself because of all the things I've been through. You know? And so now it's where I'm confident in who I am. I love myself.
I'm so thankful that brothers like you are publishing and getting your stuff out there because, brother, you put some profound stuff. That was some profound stuff. And, like I one time dated a woman up in New York and she was dark skinned and she talked about her experiences, things she experienced because of her dark skin. And then, I'll never forget one time, a young black man that was out at Westport High School. And he said, I was speaking, I was trying to explain something to him. He said, man, you're the smartest black person I ever heard. I know. And I was thinking to myself, brother, I was just trying to direct you to the classroom. But he meant like, my manner of speaking, Yeah. And I was thinking that was really, I didn't even take that as a compliment. I felt sad behind that. But people, writers like Jawanza Kunjufu who's written about it, speaking properly, doing well in your studies, taking a strong interest in your studies, that's acting white.
It is. I hate that. And the thing is, I have a lot of friends, people that love me, and I love them. But people are always like, man, like, yeah, you're not really black. And I'm like, well, what is your perception of black?
Right.
If your perception of black is what you see on TV and in music videos, you're like, no, that's not. Exactly. That's a culture. That is not my culture.
Right.
And I tell people all the time, just because we got the same skin color does not mean we subscribe to the same morals and values at all. And just because you got a police uniform on does not mean we're going to be good partners.
Right.
Because, I have high standards for myself, for the community, and for the people I work with.
Amen.
And if you're not up to that standard, man, I don't want nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Like I say, you don't get my loyalty. You don't get my loyalty just because we got the same skin color. You have some people that like support black business. I look at it like this. I work hard for my money. If you have a product that I like, that I need, that's going to benefit me, I'm going to come to you. I don't really care what color you are.
Right.
I'm going to take my money where I'm going to get the best benefit for myself.
There you go.
There you go. Just so happen to be black, great. Whatever,
Right. Right. Yeah.
Only colors I have I'm loyal to, see behind red, white, and blue. Because when I swore an oath to protect this country, and when I went to war in Iraq in 2004, I did not do it for black people. I did it for black, white, Hispanic, whoever. Everybody that falls under this flag. That's what I did it for.
Amen. Amen. Brother, we only got a couple of minutes left here, but I wanted to actually we've already touched upon it. Your whole situation, experiences as a black police officer in the black community. But I wanted, as you know, David James, who's the president of Louisville Metro Council, he's a black man, former police officer, announced that he's running for mayor. And I was wondering if you could just give us some thoughts about that. I'm not asking you to endorse or not endorse or anything.
Yeah. Man. I know that. I can say I know David. I've ran into him many times, man. The brother's smart. Like, you can't deny. The brother's smart, but he's doing the politic thing now, man. In order to do politics and to get votes, you're going to have to get bits and pieces of yourself away here and there, man. And, he's, politicking, man. And sometimes, I've heard some of the things he said I don't agree with, but if you want to get votes on a certain base of people, you're going to have to start thinking the same things that certain base of people want you to hear. He said them, and a lot of officers aren't very happy about it. But at the same time, hey, man, understand it. You want to get those votes, man. Like I said, that's why I don't want to go into politics, because I'm just so, I'm set in who I am, and I'm not willing to give up what I believe for a vote. So if I got to, sell myself or tell, not even to sell myself, just if I got to show myself a certain way that's really not me,
right,
in order to get a vote, I just rather not have you vote.
There you go.
I don't want to do it, But I mean, the brother's smart, so he knows what he's doing. He's playing the game, so does he have a shot? We'll see, because I know how, I'm not going to say the entire Black community feels about the police department, because a lot of the Black community really loves us and supports us. It's just that small percentage of people within the community that cause problems, that are the loudest, that don't want us around. So I guess, time will tell. We got to see who else is running, so everything's up in the air. Louisville, we got a lot going on in Louisville here in the next 2 years, a lot of stuff going to be going on. So it's going to be interesting. So I say buckle your seatbelt. It's going to be interesting in the next 4 years alone, in the next 2 years with, Congress and all that. So, it's going to be bumpy.
Do you think, Brother James, how do you think the so-called Black activist community is going to respond to him? Like Black Lives Matter and those guys.
I'll be honest, I don't think they're going to pull to him. They don't, because like I say, he's a cop. He's retired. He collects a pension. He's a cop. And with the activist group, they are, hey, either you're all in with us or you're not. And as I have seen from 6 months being on the streets, you can give these activists and these protesters everything they want, and they're still going to be activists, and they're still going to protest. There's nothing you can give them to appease them. And so why, give in to their demands if you're not going to get anything for it? You're not going to get anything for it. They're set in their ways. They're not going to change that.
Right. Did you hear, brother, that Dr. Ricky James, and again, for those who are new to Louisville situation, Dr. Ricky James, he's the chairman of the Pan-African Studies Department here at the University of Louisville. He self-describes as a revolutionary leftist, and of course, he's a Black man. He is thinking about running. What are some of your thoughts on that?
I don't know anything about the brother. I'll be honest. I can't comment. I really don't know anything about him. Like I say, honestly, I stay in my bubble, and this is what I think most people should do. You should research and study before you cast a vote. But I think the biggest thing facing the nation right now is everybody's looking at the big picture. Everybody's looking at who's president, who's in Congress, Democrats running. Oh my God, the whole country's going to collapse. And I'm like, all this stuff you cannot control. Only thing I can't control what's going on in the White House, but I can control what's going on in my house.
There you go.
And I can control, the people I come in contact with in the streets every day, and try to provide them a high level of service, and try to show them that, hey, I'm an officer and I care about you. So like I say, politically wise, it's hard to just spread myself out there and just get real deep in the weeds. I'll be honest, I've been on social media lately because it has just grown so negative. There's so many, everything's just so polarized. Nobody can just be in the middle. Nobody can have an opinion without that opinion being taken and blown up to where, oh, you hate Black people, you hate white people. I'm a leftist, I'm a conservative, I'm far right. There's really no in the middle. Man, I just really wish that people just get off social media and actually just go talk to people. And people would see, like, man, hey, the world's not as bad as we think it is. Because like I say, it's just the fringes on the left and the right that are making all of us caught in the middle crazy.
Right.
You wouldn't believe how many. I have a friend, I told her, I was like, get off of Facebook. Just get off social media. And she told me, she was like, she was off for 3 days. She was like, you know what? This is the best I've slept in so long. Because
wow.
The anxiety, man, every time when you wake up, the first thing you do is pick up your phone. You're constantly diving into the chaos. I had that problem. I had to cut myself off because, and I tell my fellow officers, like, man, we live in chaos for 12 hours in our shifts. We go shootings, homicides, rapes, thefts, everything. We deal with the worst of the worst. And then when we get off, what do? we're sitting on our phones, still engaging in the chaos. We don't give ourselves enough time to detach mentally, to decompress.
Right.
And, you know, I remember my daughter one day was like, Dad, you're always on your phone. Like, and I'm like, hey, this is important. I'm trying to save the world here. Yeah. And I'm like, you know, I had a buddy, like, after everybody stormed the Capitol, and I had been on Facebook, aren't you going to say anything? I'm like, do you really think if Dexter Pitts makes a post that everything's going to be okay?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. It's not going to change anything.
Right.
So instead of getting on Facebook to try to convince people in social media, I said, I'm going to write my book, and I'm just going to try to be the best person I can and affect as many people within my reach on a personal level.
Yes.
You know, if my book can do it on a national level, great.
Right. Well, you know what, brother? Based on what you just said, I am now convinced Zuckerberg did interrupt that our interview.
They don't want you to sign off. That's how they get their money. That is how they get their money.
There you go. Yeah. And what you said is really, really, it's so odd to say it, but it's revolutionary. Put your phone down, stay off social media, and go talk to somebody.
Talk to people. Talk to people.
Wow.
I'm telling you, the world is not ending. I'm like, man, those of us conservatives, liberals, whatever, we all have so much more in common than we realize. Like this with the protesters. They were like, hey, we don't like the mayor. I'm like, hey, there's things I don't like about him. Like, hey, let's work together. But, you know, everybody's so caught up in where, hey, I have to defend my side and I can't give it you an inch. No, we should be able to get an inch here and there. We have to. We have to come together. Believe it or not, we are all Americans at the end of the day. We all live under this flag. We all have to live here together and get along. If not, it's going to end in war. And that is something I have experienced that I do not want to experience here in this country.
There you go, brother. I'm going to end it right there because that was a powerful summation right there, brother. You're absolutely correct. Speaking to my listeners, this is Book Talk with Corbin. I'm your host, and you know we were here finishing up our interview with Dexter Pitts. He's putting out a book. Please, folks, I want you guys to be anticipating this, waiting for this. It's going to be a great piece of work. I'm going to let you know as soon as this is published or self-published. Let you know how you can get a copy. We need to go out there and get copies, share it with our friends and family members. And also, here in the description, there's my PayPal account. And please donate so I can keep on bringing more brothers like Dexter on for interviews. Brother, thank you so much. I will be in touch, okay?
Thanks, Corbin. You take care of yourself, brother.
You bet, man.